Today I'm going to talk about not Arc Nova, because I've already done a video on Arc Nova. I don't need to talk about Arc Nova anymore, it's so last year. Instead, I'm going to talk about something inside the box, and that is a much smaller game, card game Mada by designer Sophia Wagner and Swiss publisher Helvetique. Now, Helvetique does many tiny games along these lines, such as Bandita and Kawaii. It's got slightly larger ones in the Matchbox series. Of course, Helvetique is not the only publisher to do such games. Oink is well known for its tiny travel-friendly releases. There's a Taiwanese publisher, Homo Sapiens Lab, that has done many of these as well. And you can fit 26 of these little games inside an Arc Nova box. How about that? You probably didn't know that. But what do you get when you actually open this up and play it? Mada is for 2 to 5 players, and it contains rules in 6 languages, which is pretty standard for most Helvetique games, even tiny ones like this. You have 60 cards in the deck, with 3 special types of cards and cards numbered from 1 to 13. You are trying to collect these over the course of play, and they are worth points equal to the number of prickly pairs on them. So the range goes from 1 at the low end to 6 at the high. Whoever has the most points wins. To play, you shuffle the deck, which would normally include the cards I just slid to the side, and deal each player a hand of 3 cards. So in my fake 3-player game, we're all set up now. I'm looking for one special situation, which I have here. If you were dealt a scorpion, then you must discard a card from your hand, your choice. So let's say I get rid of the 10. We'll talk about this one later. On a turn, you are going to do one of 3 things. You can draw a card from the deck and add it to your hand, but you have a hand limit of 3, so you cannot do that. If this player goes first, they can draw a card, add it to their hand. You can play a card from your hand and start a personal discard pile. So you are going to score points based on what is on top of your pile. So you're trying to make it as high as possible. However, if you cannot play a card onto your pile, and you would play a card onto your pile, and it is lower than what's on top, then you bust and are out for the round. You score nothing and everyone else scores. So if I start with a 9, I don't have too much more wiggle room. On my next turn, I could draw a card and then play. Maybe I have to play the 12, maybe I play the 13. So you want to give yourself some room in which to play. Let's see. If this were my hand, well, that's also not great. A 9, a 9, and a double lemur. We'll use that in our example later. Okay, so you can draw a card. You can play a card. The third thing you can do is take a chance. You say, taking a chance, and just flip the card from the top of the deck. If it's a number card and you can legally play it, great. You just did. If you can't legally play it, you bust. If it's a special card, you carry out the special card effect. So I played a 6. I've still got these in hand, so I've got more room in which to play cards. So this player, let's say they play a 9. All right. This player draws. I play a 9. They play another 9. This player has 3 cards. Play a 3. Okay. Turns are generally pretty quick. I can play immediately or I can draw. Let's say I play immediately. The double lemur card lets you swap your pile with someone else's pile. Sometimes you want to do that because you're about to bust. You can't legally play a card. Maybe you've got 13 on the top and low cards in your hand, and you don't want to take a chance and just hope to flip over a 13. So the double lemur card, it's you and another player are changing what you have. Why swap with the guy who's got the higher number? Because this is worth more points. And you have no cards in hand. So on your future turns, you can just hope to draw. So 7, draw, draw. Maybe this person is going to play a lemur. They don't have to. It's not necessarily a good idea to right now. But the lemur takes whatever card is on top of your deck, whatever number is on top of your deck, and puts it on the bottom. So it gives you a reset. It gives you more room in which to play. If this player had the lemur, you would take both 9s and put them on the bottom, so you'd essentially be starting over with a 0, and you could play anything you want, which would be great because they just drew a 4. But, okay. So this player played, I got this, draw. This player, they can play or draw? Play a 12. Okay, so you're trying not to bust. Play a 12, draw, draw. Play a 13, draw, draw, draw. All right. What else do they get? They have to play now, or they can swap. They can swap again. Maybe they hope this player doesn't have good things. They've got a full hand of cards. So they have to play something, or take a chance. Here, I can draw. Here, maybe they hope one of us is going to bust now, so they'll play a higher number. This player can draw. I can't play anything. I have to take a chance. Didn't work. If I had flipped a double lemur, I would swap. If I flipped the single lemur, I can put this on the bottom and give myself some more room. If I had flipped a scorpion, I would discard the scorpion and a card from my hand, which means I can now draw on my next turn, which gives me another turn to hope to get out of it and not bust. But that didn't happen, and I busted. And when you bust, you throw away all your cards in your pile. Everyone else is going to score their top card. So this player, 5 points, 3 points. The rest of the cards go away. And the player who busted can choose to discard any number of cards from their hand if, for whatever reason they want. Maybe I feel I'll start with a 4, and that's sort of low, and then I'll give myself some room to draw. Everyone else has to keep what they have, which could be good or bad depending on what it is. Oh, they would have discarded this and this. Okay. And then the player to the left of whoever busted begins their turn. So they got a 6. Maybe they take a chance to start. Ugh, that was bad. They had hoped to get something, and now they're going to have to possibly eat it. So maybe that person plays. Maybe I'll play, and then they draw. And we continue around. So I draw, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I play this, or I take a chance because I want to get more points than 2 if this player busts, because I don't know what they have in their hand. They actually could play a 13 on their turn, but I don't know that. Maybe I take a chance. All right, I'm going to get 1 more point if they bust. But it turns out they can play. And so on. We're going to continue these rounds until someone has scored 5 cards. So you're going to play some number of rounds between 5 and 9. You can have at most 9 rounds in a 2-player game. In a 5-player game, you might end the game with 5 rounds. If a player never busts, they're going to score a card each time and end the game more quickly. Or at least maybe they're going to score each time. Because I have seen situations in which someone flips a 13 and then this player draws and this player draws because they're trying to wait it out, or maybe they play their 4. And now this player decides, I don't want to give people time to build up something high. I'm just going to end the game right now. I'm going to take a chance. Boom. I bust. This player scores nothing. This player scores only 2 points. So sure, I went out, but you didn't gain much from it. And I now get to improve my situation for the next round by dumping whatever I want from my hand. So little choices that come into play all the time. Trying not to bust, hoping other people do, playing off them by swapping or putting your number on the bottom to give yourself a little more wiggle room. And then, in the end, flip over your cards and see who has the most points and wins. I'm a fan of quick playing card games, and at Spiel 2022, my friend Ken Shota recommended the game to me because he played it and liked it, so I bought a copy. I've now played it 6 times with all player counts from 2 to 5. Mada is a nice combination of press your luck elements and hand management with a touch of take that in there thanks to the double lemur card that lets you switch piles. Because you can take a chance when you have nothing in your pile, you can take a chance when you're high in the pile. So that's an option available to you. You got some hand management as you're trying to decide how quickly you want to rise in your pile because you want to be high in order to score more points if someone else falls off the cliff. But as you go higher, you increase the chances of you falling off the cliff, depending upon what you have in hand. The scorpion in general is a good thing to see because it lets you dump something from your hand, which gives you more waiting time while other people rise and hopefully they fall off the cliff first because now you have fewer cards in hand. You have that moment where everyone's rising, and then trying to take a chance just to survive. They're up at 12 or 13, all their cards in hand are lower, they have to take a chance. And sometimes it just, yeah, got a 13. Got another 13. Who would have thought? Got a scorpion. I can discard a card from my hand, and now I've got another turn where I can just draw before I have to take a chance again, assuming I don't draw something that helps me out as well. So you got little nice elements all coming together for a quick playing challenge with few rules that you can get into quickly. All that said, I do have 2 quibbles with Mada, although only one of them is actually with the gameplay, so we'll start with that. The 2-player game feels somewhat flat, because with 4 and 5 players, the odds of you being the player who falls off the cliff go down, which means you've got a little more to consider as you're deciding what to play and when to draw and when to take a chance, because there are multiple people with their numbers rising. I always picture them sort of as bar graphs or just people climbing at a certain point. And there's more chance of other people failing, so you're trying to track them all. Who has cards in hand? What are people doing? What did they just play? There's more swapping going on with the double lemur, where it's not just you and someone else swapping piles back and forth, but things travel around more as you think that someone is about to fail. Or if someone has collected lots of cards or lots of points and you're trying to push them off the edge of the cliff. There's just a bit more going on. And that goes away with 2 players. And the game feels less dynamic because it's just me and you, and we're playing cards, and if we swap, it's with each other, and it's just less interesting. It works. Everything flows fine. It just doesn't have the same interactive feel because it's just the 2 of us. And one of us is going to fail, and the other player is going to score points. And that's it. It's also a little longer because unless the same person fails every time, then, well, only one person is scoring. And the game ends when someone has 5 cards in their pile. So you can have up to 9 rounds of play if you're swapping back and forth in terms of the failure. Whereas with more people, maybe that one fails and that one fails and that one fails, but this person has scored 3 cards in that time and that other person has scored 3 cards. And so there's just a bit more to think about and a bit more to consider as you're deciding what to do. Just more interesting to have more people at the table with this action going on. However, this leads into the second point, which is not related to the gameplay, but with the game players. In general, I'm a fan of playing by the gut, where I just make a decision and I'm like 90% of the way there and I'm not going to calculate everything out and I just do something. And often on a turn, I know what I want to do. But other people sometimes take a long time, even though there's not that many choices and everything in my mind is very straightforward. You got 3 things you can do. And if you got a hand of 3 cards, you can't draw, so there's 2 things you can do. If you have no cards in hand, you can't play, so there's 2 things you can do. There shouldn't be much to think about in terms of how long you're going to consider something. You're taking immediate actions, and turns, in my mind, should be seconds. And when that happens, it's great. And we just flow around the table, and people are adjusting, and hand sizes are changing, and things are swapping, and it feels very active. But sometimes 1 or 2 people just take a long time and then it just feels like, why is this taking so long? What's going on here? This should not be a big deal. It feels like it should be very active and flowy, and it's not. But that's a player problem, not a game problem. So you just have to consider who you're playing with when you're playing something like this, or again, it's just simple choices, straight ahead. Don't play with those people who are going to bog it down and destroy your fun. Oh, that sounds so harsh. Don't play with those people. Those people are terrible. It sounds really harsh. And yet, that is also how I feel, because I like having it flow. There's not much to consider. I've often have my choice for what I'm going to do. And now I'm just waiting to make it. And then my turn comes in like seconds, I'm done. And then we have to wait again. So if it's going quickly, cool. It all works out well. So is that a design issue? Is there a way to get around that? I'm sure you've had other games like that, right? That have that same sort of issue. And so you just got to get in the right space with other people and have it all flow from there. Ideally with 3 or more players, at least from my perspective. There you go. Quick overview of Mada.